What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Errol, the truth, Spence. Spence says, facts is I'm fighting someone else. Crawford is too, but a tune-up. Errol Spence listened to what Terence Crawford had to say when they discussed a planned super fight. The unbeaten unified champion listened to what Crawford went live on his channel to explain why he decided to go a different direction. Now it's time he has decided to respond. Okay, now Spence questioned some of what Crawford had to say and refuted other parts of his 21-minute speech from Tuesday evening. The exchange comes 2 weeks after their fight fell apart and nearly a month after the last communication made during months-long negotiations. It ended with Crawford instead signing with BLK Prime, a subscription video on-demand outfit now branching into beginning with Crawford's WBO welterweight title defense against David Avanesian on December 10th in his hometown of Nebraska. He said, "Why it take you 2 weeks to say something?" Spence questioned Wednesday evening. "You tried getting your shit together. We can see you looking at some flashcards or a piece of paper, and good you speaking now. I was worried. Facts is I'm fighting someone else. Crawford is a tune-up." Okay. What else did he have to say? He said, "Al told me straight up, I'm not letting anybody touch this fight," Crawford said. And okay, Spence had a different take. All right, he said, "All money, not good money," stated the unbeaten southpaw from DeSoto, Texas. I asked him where the $50 million coming from, who is over the hedge fund putting the money up. He couldn't tell me. He said, "I think we all need to just meet in person." Crawford also made claims that Spence wasn't directly involved in talks, that it was just himself as a manager and promotional free agent and Al Heyman in contact with one another. The three-division champion, or the three-division world reigning WBO champion title, also stressed that he needs full transparency since he stated the offer was entirely incentive-driven in lieu of based guarantee. He said, "A smart boss surrounds himself around people who are the best at what they do and can help in my decisions," quoted Spence. He claims that his concerns over having transparency on the revenues and expenses from the fight was the big issue that killed negotiations. That's cap. My side agreed to showing him everything. The draft included specific provisions that required that both of us would receive a complete and full written detailed accounting showing all pay-per-view sales of the event and then the status of all net revenues received and all event expenses incurred and paid. If I'm not telling the truth, tell him post the draft. He talking about he didn't have a guarantee and he was taking all the risk. Mother effer. I didn't have a guarantee, just a higher percentage. He said I wasn't at the table or nowhere to be found. For what I knew, what I was projected to get and happy with, to be honest, that hedge fund deal was for your benefit. I think we all just needs to meet in person. An announcement regarding Spence's next opponent is expecting in the next coming weeks. Let me counterpunch. Based on what I just heard Spence say, Spence Crawford agreed on this. Let's start with the agreements, because a lot of times the he versus she and, this side versus that side, they all agreed to show up in person. Spence, you just heard Spence say, let's show up in person. Terence Crawford wanted to show up in person. Who didn't want to show up in person? Who didn't want to meet in person? Al Heyman. Al Heyman said that his mother was sick. His mother wasn't doing well, and that was the reason. I think that both guys are onto something really good and promising if that was what it was. Like if you don't really want this fight to happen, it won't happen. because Errol Spence, like he said, he surrounds himself around smart businessmen, or businessmen are at best at what they do. Okay. That's Spence, his way of telling us that I'm not going to go against who I hire or who runs my business. He's not going to go out of his way to do something that Al doesn't want him to do, because he trusts Al in everything that Al does. So if Al tells him, no, I'm not meeting in person, no, all money ain't good money, that's going to be how it's going to be. Okay, period. That's how it's going to be. See, Errol Spence is loyal. Like most Al Heyman fighters are loyal until they're not, until they wake up. And him saying all money is not good money in the hedge fund, he couldn't tell you what it is. Okay, you have a point there. You would at least want to tell who the hell is giving the money to. But at the end of the day, if there is a guarantee on $25 million, what could be the problem unless there's something in the details of getting that money that will require them to fight again and again and again, or something that required them to, take certain revenue away from future fights. Now, in that case, you're like, okay, well, that's not a guarantee. That's more like a kind of a trapped entraption, of a fighter. I remember Joe Louis, the legendary Joe Louis, got tricked from fighting Max Schmeling on the rematch, where the guy, his manager, tricked him into signing some stuff where it was all BS, and it required him to give a certain amount of money to Max Schmeling for the rest of his life, which was crazy, right? So I get that. But at the end of the day, all money ain't good money. Yeah, I get that too. But if you're only trying to uphold the decision of someone that's over you, it's really, he still doesn't have a voice, okay, based on what it is. And they're going to see it different sides, because Errol Spence is going to look at it like, look, I got more of the percentage split. I can show you everything to make sure you get what you're supposed to get, and I get what I'm supposed to get. I get more of it. You agreed for the lesser split. I got the bigger split. So whatever that is, I'm going to get. But the problem is, if there's no guarantee based on everything that's happening now, who's to say that that fight's going to do well? So you got a fighter that's guaranteed salary base minded. Then you got a guy that's more on the sales or incentive side, which he's been coached to think that way and to feel that way. But I understand, with Spence is believing what Errol Heyman tells him. Look, it's going to be a big fight. You guys are going to make a lot of money, and the money that you're going to generate through pay-per-view is going to be massive, and it's going to be a lot more than a guarantee. Whereas Terence Crawford he's learned that a guarantee is better, because I'm putting my life on the line like every other fighter that steps in the ring. So at least I have to know I'm getting paid, versus, oh, well, the money's not coming right then. People have to understand the difference between a guarantee and an incentive. When you're fighting for a guarantee, that check is there in your dressing room at the end of the night. You're getting that money right then. You're getting a check for the amount of money that you applied for. That's what you're getting. Okay, when an incentive, they have to wait till everything generates, and then you get bulks of certain incentive payouts every so often. Okay, so because it takes a while for those numbers to come through, and then the network's got to get their share, and then everybody else got to get their share. Then the fighter gets, that chunk of whatever he gets. Okay, so it's not what people think it is. So if you have two different people that are accustomed to two different types of revenue, you got to ask yourself which one is really better, and it's going to be based off of who you decide to support. So if you're an Errol Spence fan, right, and you got a pony in the show, you're going to think, well, he should have took the split. And then if the guarantee benefited him, which Errol Spence, to be fair, didn't really go into discussion about, and he did not dispute how much the money was. So if you didn't dispute how much the money was, he just said, oh, money ain't good money. But at the end of the day, it's like, well, wait. You're not, This is different from that $50 million Joshua should have or supposed to got, right? That was the situation because there was no contract. There was no, there was nothing that was showing him, yo, this money's real. Come get it. Fight Deontay Wilder. And that's going to be what it's going to be. Okay. But Joshua wasn't a free agent either. So shut that shit down. Okay. So he had to answer to other people that he was signed with. Terence Crawford is not signed with anybody, up until he signed with BLK Prime. But I don't know what type of contract that really is. But he wasn't signed with anybody. So the deal that was offered, the deal that was on the table, the deal that seemed to satisfy both sides, which I don't see why that shouldn't have satisfied, because at what point did Errol Spence ever make $25 million? Unless it's devil's in the details. So you have to take that into consideration. But the money itself, you heard Errol Spence did not, contest. So I want people with the same fucking energy that knows that there's guaranteed money on the table. Remember all the fights that, all the fighters that you supported. You remember everybody blasted at Anthony Joshua on that side of the street. Remember when people were talking about Deontay Wilder didn't take in the guarantee. Remember what Al Heyman has done. Remember what he's shutting down. Remember that he is stopping a mega fight from happening with the right amount of money. Okay, so just understand that, because this is what we're looking at. He was a smart businessman, surrounds himself around people who are the best. He sounds like Floyd Mayweather. What does that mean? That means Al Heyman has told him that. That means that he is listening to a smarter person tell him what to do, just like Floyd did. And they're all brainwashed to think the same thing. Had that been Mikey Garcia, had that been Floyd Mayweather, he would have took that damn money. You don't believe me? Why the fuck is Floyd fighting on the zone? Counterpunch. So let's stop with all the other things. Though the people that are going to support Spence, you're going to support him no matter what. Good for you. People that support the claim that Terence Crawford had that $50 million to split with Errol Spence, $25 million apiece, and that's 50-50. Of course, it's going to benefit him more getting 25 and then Errol Spence 25. It's going to benefit him. I would want that deal too if I knew at the first deal I was taking less of the cut of a non-guarantee fight. Okay, you don't know how much they're going to get. They could have, let's say they made $8 million. Okay, that means Errol would get 6 and he gets 2. Versus 25 and 25. M's. Do the math. Anyway, you guys tell me what you think of Errol Spence responding quickly to Terence Crawford's live stream. And let me end this with this, okay? I know this is long. He was like, well, it took you a long time. I see you had flashcards and stuff like that. Well, Errol, you didn't say anything for a while, okay? He didn't say anything when Terence Crawford rolled up on Blue Blood Sports TV, and you can't say the platform's not big. Shit, it's bigger than mine. Everybody and their mama saw it. You know what I mean? So when Blue changed his tune, that should have been a direct incentive for him to say, you know what, let me go ahead and let me contact Blue Blood Sports TV and tell him what's going on. But he didn't do that at all. So, touche. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.